Jana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Purnanda Ranjana Yamuna Jira Jira Anucha Yamuna Jira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jabihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Gurudev Sri. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Sutuvacha Vayasakir Iti Vachaha Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Upadharya Matim Krishne Autareyaha Satim Yadhat. So this is chapter 4 of the second canto, Process of Creation, text number 1. Sutuvacha Vayasakir iti vachas Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Buddhayamatim Krishne Autareya Satim Yadat Sutuvacha Vayasakir iti vachas Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Upadhyayamatim Krishne Autareyam Satim Yadat Sutuvacha Vayasakir iti vachas Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Upadhyayamatim Krishne Autareya Satim Yadat Sutuvacha Vayasakir iti vachas Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Upadhyayamatim Krishne Autareya Satim Yadat Sutuvacha
Vayasakirti vachas Tatvanishchayamatmana Upadarya Krishne Atarya Sating Vyadat Sutu Vacha Vayasakirti vachas Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Upadarya Matim Krishne Autareya Satim Vaida Suta Uvacha Vayasakirti vachas Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Upadharya Matim Krishne Autareya Satim Yathat Suta Uvacha Vayakshikir iti vachas Tattva nishayam atmanaha Utparhaya matim Krishna Utareya satim viyadhat Vayasakirti vachas Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Upadharya Krishna Satim Yadhat
Sutaha Uvacha Vayasakira iti vachas Tattva Nishchayam Atmanaha Upadharya Matim Krishne Autareya Satim Vyadhat
Suta Uvacha Vaishasakar iti Vakash Tatve Nishcham Atmanaha Upadharam Matim Krishne Autare Satim Vyadat Suta Uvacha Vayasakar iti vachas Tattva Nishchayam Atmanaha Upadharyamatim Krishne Autareya Satim Vyadhat Suta Uvacha Vayasakiriti vachas Tatvanishchayam Atmanaha Upadayam Vatim Krishne Ottaraya Satim Bhyadat
Sutulacha. Suta Goswami said, Vayasake of Shukadev Goswami. Iti, thus. Vachaha, speeches. Tatvanishchayam, that which verifies the truth. Atmanaha, in the self. Upadharya, just having realized. Matim, concentration of the mind. Krishna, unto Lord Krishna. Autareyaha, the son of Uttara. Satim, chaste. Vyadhat, applied. Translation. Suta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, after hearing the speeches of Shukadev Goswami, which were all about the truth of the self, applied his concentration faithfully upon Lord Krishna. Report, please.
The word satim is very significant. This means existing and chaste. And both imports are perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. The whole Vedic adventure is to draw one's attention entirely into the lotus feet of Lord Krishna without any deviation, without any diversion, as instructed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Fortunately, Maharaj Parikshit had already been attracted to the Lord from the very beginning of his body in the womb of his mother. In the womb of his mother, he was struck by the Brahmastra atomic bomb released by Ashwatthama. But by the grace of the Lord, he was saved from being burnt by the fiery weapon. And since the king continuously concentrated his mind upon Lord Krishna, which made him perfectly chaste in devotional service, so by natural sequence, he was a chaste devotee of the Lord. And when he further heard from Srila Shukadev Goswami that one should worship the Lord only and no one else, even though full of all desires or desirelessness, his natural affection for Lord Krishna was strengthened. We have already discussed these topics. To become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, two things are very much essential, namely, having a chance to be born in the family of a devotee and having the blessings of a bona fide spiritual master. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Parikshit Maharaj had both opportunities. He was born in a family of such devotees as the Pandavas, and just to continue the dynasty of the Pandavas, and to show them special favor. The Lord specifically saved Maharaj Parikshit, who later on, by the arrangement of the Lord, was cursed by the boy of a Brahmana and was able to get the association of such a spiritual master as Shukadev Goswami. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that a fortunate person, by the mercy of the spiritual master and Lord Krishna, achieves the path of devotional service. This was perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. By the way of being born in a family of devotees, he automatically came in touch with Krishna. And after being so contacted, he constantly remembered him. Consequently, Lord Krishna gave the king a further chance for development and devotional service by introducing him to Shukadev Goswami, a stalwart devotee of the Lord with perfect knowledge and self-realization. And by hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, he was perfectly able to concentrate his chaste mind further upon Lord Krishna as a matter of course.
So, Parikshit Maharaj, the son of Uttara. Uttara is the daughter of King Uttara. And this was where the Pandavas and Draupadi executed their 1 year of incognito, the last year of their exile from the gambling match. They had to stay somewhere in a city. That was the stipulation. But they had to be incognito. And if they were discovered during that last year, they would have to go again for another 13 years on exile. So they were very careful to choose the place where they were going to stay in that last year, and they were not detected during that year. But Uttara, the daughter of, she was the princess. When the king found out, Virat, His name was Virat. When he found out that actually the person whom he thought was, what do they call? Yeah, as a eunuch. He was disguised as a eunuch. It's not so easy to disguise that, but he got some help from the Urvashi, the very famous heavenly society woman who was supposed to give him pleasure. It's a long story. I won't go into all the details, but Arjuna refused because he saw her as mother. He knew of her having come down from the heavenly planets and acted as mother in his own dynasty. He had nothing but respect for her as a mother. But she said that those rules don't apply here in the heavenly planets. Anyway, Arjuna could not be persuaded otherwise, even though Indra might have liked him to. He was not willing to do that. So she became very angry and she cursed him to become a eunuch. And Indra arranged it so that it was just reduced to 1 year. And that 1 year, he would be able to disguise himself as a eunuch on her curse. So that's what happened. He was not discovered. But afterwards, when it was exposed that actually it was Arjuna himself who was playing the part of this eunuch, and he or she, hard to say, but was teaching Virat's daughter, the palace princesses, how to dance. So he was her dance instructor. He had learned dancing also when he was in the heavenly planets. But he knew heavenly movements. So he was teaching. So when it was discovered, the king said, I give you my daughter, you can marry her. Please marry my daughter. The great hero, Arjuna. And Arjuna would not accept. He said, I'm her teacher. Teacher can't become the husband. But she can marry my son. And so the son was Abhimanyu. And before the battle began, they had already been married, Abhimanyu and Uttara, and she was pregnant. But he went to the battle because he was 16 years old. Even though he was so young, he was as great a fighter as anybody on the battlefield. In fact, maybe greater than practically everyone. Long story about his defeat, but Parikshit was the posthumous son. He was in the womb of his mother, and the father was killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. So this was the last descendant of the dynasty, the Kuru dynasty, because everyone was practically killed except the Pandavas, but their sons were also killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. So the Pandavas were not going to produce more children. And so Parikshit was the final one. And Ashwatthama, the son of Drona, was after revenge because of his father's death. So he launched his Brahmastra weapon, which was directed. There were mantras that could release weapon. So this is a Brahmastra launched by mantra. And it was so precise. They have smart weapons now. You've heard of the smart weapons? They can go and turn and hit a certain house. But this was even more smart because it could go right inside the womb and kill the embryo without harming the mother. And so that was what because it wasn't acceptable to kill a woman fighter. But anyway, he thought it was all right to annihilate the last member of the dynasty. But Krishna had to personally come and go in that situation and stop the Brahmasura from killing Parikshit. And he did that. Therefore, Parikshit is very special. Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. That's a fact. So in one sense, we're all as fortunate as Parikshit. Ours because we all have the Lord in our hearts. But this case is special because Krishna personally protected the son, Parikshit. So we accept the principle that a person can be extremely fortunate just from birth, just by taking birth in the family of Vaishnavas. He becomes greatly fortunate, and his life can become auspicious. And doubly so when after taking birth in such a family, he meets a pure devotee, spiritual master. Like Prabhupada said about himself, he and Bhaktisiddhanta were in the same category because they both had pure devotee families they were born into, and they had pure devotee spiritual masters that they got. So that's especially fortunate. Some of us were not fortunate enough to be born in a family of pure devotee Vaishnavas, but the power of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement and the power of Krishna consciousness is so great that even if one is not born in a high family, it doesn't make any difference. He can, if he's fortunate enough to meet a representative of the Lord, this verse is being alluded to here. Brahmande Brahmite Kono Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. It means by the mercy of Krishna, one gets a guru, and by the mercy of guru, one gets Krishna. So by both their mercy, one can take up devotional service and make his life perfect and go back to Godhead in one lifetime. That's the beauty of devotional service. It doesn't have to take many, many lifetimes. It can be done, even though you may think, well, if it has to be done in one lifetime, it must be very severe, must be very stringent, must be very difficult to perform. Not only that it isn't difficult to perform, it's as easy as anything. All one has to do is chant the holy names of the Lord, hear about Krishna, and practice the principles of devotional service, which are quite pure and natural anyway. No one should be objecting to living a pure life, not eating dead flesh and things that one should not ordinarily even think of eating, and performing activities, controlling one's senses. These are quite appreciated principles by a cultured society. So all one has to do is live by those guidelines, live a pure life, and worship Krishna, and he'll be liberated even while he's in this body. That is called Jivan Mukta. He's a jiva. He's got a material body, but because he's engaged in devotional service with his mind, his body, and his words, then he's become Jiva Mukta. He's become liberated even while in the material body. And the Pandavas were also in similar situation. So Lord Chaitanya is an incarnation of Krishna, or he is Krishna himself. And he is described by Srila Rupa Goswami as being the most munificent incarnation. Mo Bahava Nanaya, Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaura Tishenwa. Because he has given most wonderful gift, Prema, love of Krishna, pure love of Krishna. The highest attainment of all achievements of piety or devotional activity is to attain love for Krishna. There's nothing higher than that. Someone may think, well, if I get mystic powers, that's a very high benediction. Or if I get to live a long time, I can live as long as Brahma. That's a great accomplishment. No, these are not the greatest benedictions. Or to get wealth, to become a very, very wealthy or famous person. No. Most important thing is to get love of Krishna. And that was given freely, not necessarily past tense, is being given freely now also. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared only about 500 years ago, and he distributed love of Godhead like an ocean. Everyone was drowned in the ocean of the ecstasy of love of Krishna. And it's not stopped yet. It's increasing now. It's going all over the world. And this is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and his followers who have carried on the message without adulterating it. If the message is presented as it's been given by Lord Chaitanya is not presenting it's not that he adopted a new method or a new philosophy. It's the same one that's spoken in Bhagavad Gita, same thing that Krishna is speaking about, same thing that's described in the Upanishads, same thing that's described in the four Vedas. That to reach Govinda is the ultimate goal. Same thing that Brahma talks about in the Brahma Samhita. Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And what is the method? To always think of Krishna. Never forget him. Always remember him in every circumstance. And that process is so powerful that one can become perfect in one lifetime and go back to Godhead. One's life can change in an instant by associating with a pure devotee. As soon as one comes in contact with Krishna, in any way, Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's entourage, Krishna's philosophy, Krishna's devotee, Krishna's dharma, his abode, one can attain perfection. That's special mercy. That is special mercy. That is sometimes, there's different types of siddha. Nitya siddha is eternally perfect. Or sadhana siddha, one becomes perfect by practicing devotional service, regular principles. And it's also the mercy that one gets just by association of a pure devotee or of Krishna. So we are very fortunate, especially the people from India that come from India or the Indian heritage are very fortunate. Lord Chaitanya said about them, Bharata Bhumite Hoila Manusha Janmajar, Janma Sarta Karikar Par Upakar. That those who are born in Bharatvarsha, the land of India, are especially fortunate because they, Punya Bhumi, pious land, they've taken their birth, and they can very easily become God conscious, Krishna conscious, And they should do that. It's their duty. And then they should give it to everyone else in the world. So now they're doing that. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the disciplic succession, they were reawakened to their duty, their birthright. But I would say that looking at the history of Bharatvarsha, from a cosmological point of view, we know that formerly what now is considered Bharatvarsha is kind of minimized. Like recently we had Pakistan is removed from India, and then there are other political ways. But formerly, Bharatvarsha referred to the whole of Earth. And it's, according to the cosmology, the Bharatvarsha is a big area, much bigger than just this Earth. It's at the southern part of Jambudvip. And Jambudvip is the big island that surrounds Meru. And then outside of this big island called Jambudvip, then we have 7 gigantic oceans of different substances, not just ordinary salt water. Salt water is the first one that we have. And after the saltwater ocean, then there's different types of oceans made of different substances, such as ghee and liquor and sweet water, yogurt, etc. So these oceans are there. So according to that information, the whole planet of Earth, or what we call Earth here, could have been part of, or is part of, Bharatvarsha. We may also take that instruction then at Bharata Bhumi Hoila. We've also taken our birth in Bharatvarsha, and we have a duty to become Krishna conscious and spread it all over the world. Thank you for letting me speak. Please continue.
Hare Krishna. So this Bhakti Lata Bij verse that Maharaj mentioned, this bija, it's referred to as seed. Another translation that is given is potency. So when we know that a male, when he is potent, and his wife and him, desire to produce a Krishna conscious child, they're able to do this with one tribe, and the child, is born of a male descent, and they make a devotee in this way. So the father in this way is bija, is potent. So Shukadev Goswami, he was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, and both of the candidates were qualified and potent to hear and to speak this Srimad Bhagavatam. So in India nowadays, so many people, they go on hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. This Bhagavat Sapta is going on, which is the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam as Maharaj Parikshit heard it in 7 days. They go on a marathon and they recite the Srimad Bhagavatam. And they've been going on doing this for thousands of years. And so many people go and hear this for economic development or some wealth, or, to acquire some material possessions or great piety. But we see that the actual goal of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is not reached through these Bhagavat Sapta programs. There's not real love being invoked in the hearer or the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam in this way. They're more or less just dry, and they're doing it for some material benefit. So we have to qualify ourselves to actually properly hear the Srimad Bhagavatam as Maharaj Parikshit did, which is solely out of love. He heard the glories of Krishna in pursuance to go back home, back to Godhead. And in this way, he heard from a pure representative of Krishna. So when we get to hear from a pure representative of Krishna, that is, he'll bestow the qualifications to us to be able to actually develop pure love of God. And like he was saying, just a moment association of a pure devotee, we cannot even understand the great benefit of that. So indeed, we're very, very fortunate to have this opportunity. So we usually end class around 8:30. We only have a couple more minutes. Does anyone have any questions or any comments on the topics that Maharaj discussed today? Yeah, Rishi Prabhu.
Just one thing about the Bhagavat Saptahas, in case anyone, just in case anyone could be confused. There's when Prabhupada's speaking about the Bhagavat Saptahas, he's referring to the people who they're doing it as a profession, they get some money, and then they just recite it, although their character and activities are degraded. But there are some devotees who we see nowadays within ISKCON who take up this theme or this way of packaging a hearing and chanting event of the Bhagavatam and do like a saptaha, and then people can come and hear it with the real purports and the actual philosophy. So yeah, that was there.
Yeah, this is when the reciter is not, he's not a qualified reciter. Yeah. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, thank you for kindly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri Gaurnita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki